So like I said, the next 2 weeks, tonight and 2 weeks from now, because actually we don't have service next week, because next week is Mother's Day. We will not have service. The next 2 messages I'm going to be giving to you are going to be fun. Unless, perhaps, you're one of my kids, which I'm sorry for my kids. Because tonight we're going to talk about dating. So dating is awesome. I know you're all like, oh, what is this old guy going to teach me about dating? We're just going to talk about the Bible and dating and all that. So let me take you back to a long time ago. Roughly 100 years ago, listen up, roughly 100 years ago, there was this kid named Brandon, and he was in middle school. So back when I was in middle school, like I guess it was about 6th grade or so, 6th or 7th grade, it started to become popular to either get a boyfriend or girlfriend. And I'm going to use girlfriend a lot when I'm talking because I'm a guy, but if you're a girl, just think boyfriend when I say girlfriend and just, do the right thing. So back when I was like 6th or 7th grade, I'm like, everybody's getting these things called girlfriends. I guess I need to get one of those. I don't know exactly what it means. I see like upperclassmen like holding hands and stuff. That must be what a girlfriend's all about. So like, okay, I don't really know, but everybody says that they're going out, but nobody's really going anywhere because we're in middle school. We don't have a car or a bike, or parents won't take us anywhere, but people are like going out, whatever that means. So I'm like, I got to get on with this. I got to figure this out. So I'm like, well, I don't know even how to pick a girl. It's like, well, I don't know. So I'm like, well, that girl's cute. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll ask that girl out, whatever that means. So I'm like, well, how do you do that? So I'm like talking to my friends. I'm like, oh, okay, we got this figured out. So back in my day, like it was a long time ago, like before cell phones were black and white, there were no cell phones. That's when I was in middle school. And so we didn't really believe in like, if I was a guy, I didn't really like talk to girls because that was uncomfortable. So you couldn't send them a text message or an email or a Facebook chat or Snapchat or like anything like that. So you really had 2 ways to communicate with a girl if you were a boy in middle school. One was you found one of those girls' friends and you talked to her and then she delivered the message like carrier pigeon to that friend. Or we had one other way, which was before text messages, we would do this thing where we actually wrote stuff on a piece of paper. We called it a note. And so we would send a note like something like this that said, will you go out with me? And to make it as easy as possible, you would put yes or no, and they just had to circle one. You didn't want to make it too complicated. But passing notes was difficult because you're like, I don't know if you guys still pass notes. It's possible, I doubt it. But in middle school, you had to pass notes. And like, if the girl I liked was like 5 seats and 3 rows over there, I had to write this note and write like, whatever, Sabrina on the front of it. And then like, psst, pass that to Sabrina. And then like, hopefully it would make it like 3 rows back and 5 rows this way to get to Sabrina. Now, there was always that one kid in class when the note got to him, he just opened it and read it. I don't know why that kid always did that, but he always just opened it and read it. He'd usually fold it up and keep passing it. But it was like, so you pass this note to Sabrina and you're just like, oh man, I went all in on this one. I wrote, I even gave her 2 options. What is she gonna do, right? And like, so I'm sitting there waiting for the note to come back and then it's like, class is over. It's like you get up and go and you're like, I didn't get an answer. So you're like, well, now what do I do? It's like, did she not get the note, or did she get the note and sign it and never made it back to you? Does somebody else have your note and somebody else is dating Sabrina now? I don't know. I don't know what's going on, right? And so you'd have to use the carrier pigeon method where you go to Michelle and be like, Michelle, can you go talk to Sabrina and see if she got my note? If she did, how did she answer? And then she come back, she's like, she got your note, but she's gonna think about it. You're like, think about it's not on the options. It's yes or no. There's no think about it. You have to circle one. It's right there. It's so clear. So dating was difficult. Dating was so difficult back then, and so it was tough. So my skills got a little more advanced over time, but essentially for about 6 years after that, I went out with girls throughout time or whatever. Luckily, my senior year of high school, I met my beautiful wife, Tawny. We've actually been together 25 years this month, so thank goodness she stopped me from any more of this, because this was killing me. So, oh man, whew. So dating is tough, because in between this first note that I ever sent and finding Tawny 6 years later, there was a lot of crazy in the middle. I don't know how else, but there was a lot of weird stuff going on and bad decision making and people that were crazy, and I might have been one of them, or they definitely were. So anyway, so tonight what I wanted to do is kind of break down dating and what it looks like. And so what I want you to do is ask yourself these questions as you start thinking about dating, or you're already dating or whatever, and that is 7 questions to ask about your dating relationship. So as you're thinking about dating, or maybe you're already dating, what does that look like? Let's talk about what that is. So the first one is, number 1 on your outline is, am I ready? Am I ready? Now, don't answer this too quickly, because everyone's like, heck yeah, I'm ready, man. Shoot, I've been training for this my whole life. I am like ready for dating. Whatever it means, I'm ready, right? And so back in 6th grade, I don't remember if it was 6th or 7th now because I'm so old, but 6th or 7th grade, I'm like, yep, this dating thing sounds good. I don't remember. I guess it was probably like my 2nd or 3rd girlfriend. I asked out with one of these hokey notes, this little girl or whatever, and so we were dating, and I thought I was ready, because I'm like, whew, I am ready. Now, I know because I'm surrounded by a lot of angels, there's none of those here, but this girl was aggressive. And I was like, whoa, I'm not ready for all that. She was like, hey, and I'm like, whoa. I'm in 6th grade. I just want to like maybe hold hands every once in a while or something, like keep passing notes. None of this, right? And so it's just like, I wasn't ready. I thought I was ready, but I wasn't ready. Whew. And then later, listen up, later in high school, I had a longer relationship by my standards, and we broke up, and I was probably heartbroken and everything. And then I thought I'd, jump right into another relationship, and I found out I wasn't ready either. My heart hadn't kind of healed itself. I hadn't kind of gotten past all that, and so I wasn't ready to date again. I had been dating, but I wasn't ready to kind of move on past that. Your heart needs to be ready, your mind needs to be ready, and so don't feel like you have to rush into this because everybody else is dating and be like, oh, I need a boyfriend or girlfriend too, because everybody else has one. If you're not ready, you're not ready. There's no hurry on this whole thing. So let me give you some proof from the Bible, because we're in church. 1 Corinthians 13:4, one of the most popular verses ever read at a wedding. This is used all the time for all sorts of things. I actually heard this recently used for something else, but it was fantastic. So it's this. And I want you to think about this as I'm talking about being ready to date. Love is patient. Are you patient? How patient are you? Are you patient with your little brother and sister? If you're not patient with them, you're probably not going to be patient with your boyfriend or girlfriend. So love is patient. Love is kind. I know most of you are kind all the time, right? Bunch of sweethearts in here. It does not envy. So what if you get yourself a new boyfriend or girlfriend and they're talking to another boy or girl? Do you have envy? Because love doesn't have envy, so maybe you're not ready if you're not confident enough to support that. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. So if you're not ready to be in a relationship and be serious about that relationship and not fool around and do all that other stupid stuff, you're probably not ready, because it says it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. So if you're going out with somebody for your own needs, that's not what love does. Love is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. I know some of you are easily angered. I could probably anger you right now if I wanted. It keeps no record of wrongs. Oh, it doesn't go, remember that time? If you ever said that to somebody, remember that time? Love doesn't do that. So you're probably not ready if you're keeping no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. So think about those things as you're thinking about, am I ready? How am I going to be ready? So, number 2, do I know what I'm looking for? Do I know what I'm looking for? Back in 6th grade, I had no idea what I was looking for. My junior year of high school, I had no idea what I was looking for. Quite honestly, when I started dating Tanya, I probably said no idea what I was looking for, right? I didn't know. I just didn't know. I knew I wanted to date someone, but I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. But I think this is where it's important that you start thinking about what is important and what are you looking for. Why is it that you want to date somebody? What is it about them that you find attractive, and is that really what you find attractive about them, and that's why you want to be with them and all that? So, and the thing to remember on this is, to know what you're looking for, is dating shouldn't be about compromising either. Life's too short to like spend some time with some jerk, right? I mean, some jerk that treats you bad or that, is cheating on you, or just, quite frankly, you don't like hanging out with a lot. Life's too short for that stuff. Don't compromise. It should always be about finding that perfect match. I remember back in high school, there was one thing for me that was like the absolute, nope, never going to happen type of thing. If a girl smoked, it was never, ever, mark them off the list forever, because that was absolutely what I wasn't looking for, was a girl that smoked, because it was just disgusting, still is. So just, what am I looking for? I remember probably 3 or 4 years ago now, we used to have this girls group, like the youth group here, that met at my house, and there were some leaders that pretty much taught a group at my house, and I wasn't part of it, but there was a bunch of girls that met at my house, and they were talking about this type of stuff one time, and I think it was like Aaron Walker and Catherine Smith and a bunch of them, and they came up with this list. I think it started at like 58 items, and it went to finally like 100 and something items of like the characteristics of the perfect guy they were looking for, and it was the things they had to have and the things they couldn't have, and it was hysterical. But I thought it was fantastic because they had defined, maybe it was impossible to find that person, but they had tried to define, here's what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for and what I'm not looking for, more importantly, right? That's really important. What am I not looking for? And so they had gone through this huge list to make sure that they had found everything they could. We had another girl in this youth group that graduated several years ago, and she was dating this boy for quite a while, and I thought maybe things might get serious because they were out of high school and everything, and they kind of clicked or whatever. And then one day I had heard they'd broken up, and I saw her, and I'm like, hey, what happened, with you and that guy? I thought, you guys were really clicking and everything. She goes, well, I'm out of high school, and what I really want in life is to find the guy that God has sent me. And she's like, and I realized he and I didn't agree on a couple major things, like moral type things or biblical type things or whatever. She's like, I decided I didn't have time to waste anymore. There was no reason for me to date him one more day once I found out he and I didn't agree on this one thing. Why waste one more day to do that, right? And so she broke it off with him, which a lot of girls probably aren't strong enough to do, or guys aren't strong enough to do, over one issue essentially. But they didn't see eye to eye, and she goes, I can't plan the rest of my life around being with this person that he and I don't agree on this one major issue as far as she was concerned. So, know what you're looking for. This is so important that now we even have all this online stuff, so you can have your perfect match online, right? You put in your profile, and you don't have to be lonely because there's farmers only, there's all sorts of stuff to find the exact person you're looking for nowadays. So you need to know what you're looking for. Number 3, here we go. Does this person share my faith? Does this person share my faith? Now I'm going to read you a scripture here, and it's not going to be on the screen. 2 Corinthians 6:14 says this: do not be joined together with those who do not belong to Christ. How can that which is good get along with that which is bad? How can light be in the same place with darkness? How can Christ get along with the devil? This is a pretty important one. And I can tell you, because I like to be honest with you guys, because I figure if I'm not up here being honest, then what's the use, right? This was something that almost ended Tawny and I, because she was raised as a Christian and I wasn't. And several years into our relationship, 4 or 5, almost 6, maybe even right before we got married, maybe right after we were married, I was an atheist. She had Christian beliefs and values. And it was a constant struggle. A constant struggle, because she was upset about things that I didn't understand. I had I had no guilt over the things I was doing. I had none of that stuff going on, because we weren't on the same page spiritually with our faith. And I didn't understand what she believed. Even though she would try to explain it to me, I just didn't understand it, because I didn't have a relationship with Christ like she did. And so you have to be very careful about hooking up with somebody that's not on the same page as you. And I can tell you that I've been up here in this youth group like 8 years or something, and I can't count how many people I've had that have been here for 4 or 5 years, start in 7th grade. By their junior year, they're like all in, they're volunteering downstairs, they're worshiping, they're leading worship, whatever. And then she finds a guy who maybe doesn't go to church, and slowly but surely, she just disappears, or he disappears. I've seen it so many times, and I see it right away right nowadays. I mean, as soon as somebody says, oh, I'm dating so-and-so, I'm like, man, I'm going to miss them. Because I know how fast they just get pulled away from their faith when that other person's over there just absorbing, because they don't share the same faith, the same goals. It's so important that you get this part right. It's so important you get this part right. And that leads me to number 4. Number 4, have I prayed about him or her? Have I prayed about him or her? You need to ask God to send you the right person. That right person, that Mr. Right, that Mrs. Right, whatever you want to call it, is out there. You need to just ask God to send you that person. And maybe on a side prayer, be like, and don't send me all the idiots in between. Maybe you could God, if you could just jump to the final answer, that would be fantastic. If I could avoid all the idiots in the middle, that would speed things up for me. However you need to make that prayer, but pray for the right person. Pray for that person that God is destined for you to show themselves to you, and maybe give you the patience and what you need to withstand until that person shows up and is revealed to you. So maybe you just need to pray to, protect you from the dummies until Mr. or Mrs. Right shows up. But you need to pray for that person. And I'm not talking about, I identified the person, God. If you could go ahead and deliver him, I got it. He's in my 6th period class. If you could go ahead and deliver him, that would be fantastic. No, that's not the prayer I mean. I mean, God, send me the right person that's going to fill me up spiritually and be the leader of my life. All that. That's the person that you need to pray for, not a specific person make them love me. That's Harry Potter. That's different. That's like a love potion and stuff. So, and then it's hard to do this if you don't have a relationship with Christ already. So if you don't have that nailed down first, it's going to be really hard for you to have a relationship with another person that's going to last long time and be really good if you don't both have that relationship with Christ. So if you don't have a relationship with Christ, you need to nail that down tonight. And when I close tonight, we're going to pray. And if that's something you need to get right and start that relationship with God tonight, you can do that tonight when we close. Number 5, are my parents honored in this relationship? Yeah, I just heard some sighs but you don't know my parents. Oh, my parents, right? So stick with me. I know I'm a parent, but stick with me on this one. You need to respect what your parents think about your dating life. Plain and simple. Your parents want the best for you, believe it or not. You just need to respect what they say and let them help guide you in your dating life. And they'll make it very clear whether or not you're honoring them in your relationship, because most parents will tell you whether or not you found the right person or not if you just ask them clearly. And maybe they won't come right out and tell you, but there'll be signs that will tell you whether or not they found the right person or not. I'm going to pick on one of my favorite couples in the room, Kaylee and Garrett. Kaylee and Garrett. They're one of my favorites. And so one thing I've noticed is that Kaylee's mom is always really quick on social media to point out how much she loves Garrett being in Kaylee's life. And how awesome it is that Garrett's around and how much fun they have together and all this stuff. And let me tell you, I know Kim a little bit, her mom. If she didn't like Garrett, it would be very clear. She doesn't mix a lot of words. It would be very clear if she didn't like Garrett. But she does, and she says it, and she praises him and for all the cool stuff they do together and everything else. They're honoring her parents with their relationship, and it shows in the way that they accept their relationship. That's so important to have that out there, because you got to be really careful if you don't. I remember probably about a year into dating Tawny, I had just graduated right when we started dating, and so I had several girls friends over and stuff. So my mom had met some of my girlfriends in the past and all that other stuff at dinner and all those super uncomfortable moments where your girlfriend comes over for dinner. And I remember like a year into our relationship, my mom like sat me down and wanted to have a serious conversation about Tawny. And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, I really like Tawny. I'm afraid of how this is going to go. And my mom goes, I just want you to know something. I've been thinking about this and everything. She's like, if things don't work out with you and Tawny, it's going to be really uncomfortable for you when you bring your next girlfriend over and Tawny's still here. Because I'm going to invite her over for dinner even if you guys aren't dating. So I'm like, well, that's going to be bad. So my mom, I must have been honoring my parents in my relationship because my mom made it very clear that Tawny was sticking around whether I wanted her to or not. I also remember back in high school, there was this girl that I was dating or going out with or whatever. And our first we had kind of been like seeing each other at school, but no real date or anything. But I was driving, and so our first official date, I was supposed to go over her house or pick her up, and I'm going to do the whole meet the parents thing, and I'm like ready to be a good, responsible guy or whatever. And I get ready to go get her, and I don't remember how she communicated with me because I didn't have a cell phone or nothing. She must have actually called my house. I had a phone at the house back then. She called me and said, hey, I'm not going to be at home. Pick me up at my friend's down the street. I'm going to be over at her house after school, so just pick me up there. You have to meet my parents some other time or whatever. And it was later at night. It was whatever reason we weren't going out till later at night or whatever. So I go to pick her up at her friend's house, and she's like waiting out front of her friend's house when I get there. And so she runs over and jumps in the car. I'm like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And we start chit-chatting. And I'm like, just getting ready to go. And a car pulls up next to me on the driver's side as I'm pulled over to this curb here. And I look over, and I realize it's this girl's dad. And he goes, is Allison in the car with you? And I'm like, well, yeah, she's right here. What I didn't know is Allison had snuck out of the house and didn't even tell me, had snuck out of the house to go on a date with me, had said she was going to her friend's house, that whole story blew up. But I look like the total scumbag, right? Because I'm like, I didn't know this girl had snuck out of the house. So I definitely wasn't honoring her parents and that thing didn't last very long because, the crazy just kept going after that. So anyway, Ephesians 6:1 says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. All right, number six. What are my boundaries and standards? What are my boundaries and standards? You need to make these decisions before you're hot and heavy into a relationship. What are your boundaries and standards? And you need to be very upfront with your person you're dating about what those boundaries and standards are. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And I'm not just talking about physical. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks. But I'm talking about standards of, what's acceptable to me. Is it acceptable to me if that person drinks? Is that acceptable? Is it acceptable if they smoke? Is it acceptable if they lie to me? What is acceptable and not acceptable? What are my boundaries? What am I going to allow in this relationship and with that person? You have to be very careful about that to make sure that you know and they know what your boundaries and standards are. I found this awesome verse that kind of fits this really well. It says, Proverbs 6:27 says, Can a man scoop a flame into his lap and not have his clothes or anything else catch on fire? So I think this is, you play with fire, you're going to get burned, right? So be very careful about your boundaries and standards, because if you get a little too close to the flame, next thing you know, your pants are on fire, liar, liar. So, all right. Number seven. Do we have more than a physical relationship? Dun, dun, dun. Do we have more than a physical relationship? And let me tell you, I don't know the answer for this one for you guys. When you're young, because I was at one time, and I still feel like I am most of the time, it's hard to tell sometimes. It's hard to tell whether you're truly attracted to somebody for reasons other than just physical reasons, right? And so, why are you together? Is this just a physical relationship? Is it because you're the cutest girl in your class and he's the cutest boy in your class and everybody's like, you two should go out because you're so cute, right? It's like, what happened that you guys are together? Is this a physical thing or what's going on there? And if it's a physical thing from like, you know, Bow Chicka Wow Wow that we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks, I can tell you if that's all you have going for you, it's going to end badly. It's going to go down in flames. You're going to be like the guy scooping flames into his lap. So nothing good's going to come out of that. So we're going to talk more about the physical thing in 2 weeks when we talk about sex and purity. But I wanted to talk about a couple next steps with you guys really quick, then we'll wrap this thing up. First is, next step, pull out your connection card on the back. There's 3 little next steps there. I want you to fill some of these in for me. First one is, I will put God first in my dating. That means you're going to be talking to God and praying for God to guide you in either your current relationship or a relationship that's going to show up. That's the next step, that you want to make sure God's first in your relationship. The other one would be, I will seek wise counsel. I will seek wise counsel. If you want dating relationship, don't ask your friend that's had 47 boyfriends. They probably don't know anything good about dating other than how to break up and get back together with somebody. Find some old married people like me or anybody else, or Chesney. There's a whole wall of people back here that would probably be happy to give you some dating advice when it comes to long relationships. Seek wise counsel. If you're wondering, is this person right for me? What should I do about this? Just ask somebody. And the last one was, I will ask God in my life. So as we talked earlier about, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, you need to get that first, because that will make all your other relationships better if you have Jesus at the center of all your relationships. So I'm going to close in prayer really quick. If you need to ask Jesus to be the Lord of your life, you can do that now during this prayer. If everybody will bow their heads. God, thank you for this time we can come together and just talk honestly about dating and the struggles with that. And it can be difficult, and there's just a lot going on as a student these days. And God, we just ask that your wisdom and guidance be with these students as they navigate these landmines of just dating and relationships over the next decade or so. And we just ask that. God, if there's anybody here tonight that needs to ask you to be the Lord of their life, God, because they're headed down the wrong path, and they know they need to fix that path, and they know they've been sinning and need to turn the other way, God, I ask that tonight that person confess that, God, that they are a sinner, God, and that they need you in their life, God, and that you can help change their life and direct them in the right direction through a better path, through a better relationship, God. I just ask that if there's anybody here that needs to do that, I hope they do that tonight. In your name we pray. And everybody said, Amen.